Hello friends and enemies! Today's video is about the 1987 album Gala by Argentine dark post-punk band Euroshima. Euroshima began in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1986. The four members were Wanda on main vocals, Fabian Iribarne on guitar, Jose Wieselgrod on keyboards, and Ricardo Barrabera on bass, backing vocals, and the drum machine. Their sole album, Gala, was produced by Polygram Discos in 1987, but unfortunately there was not a lot of interest from the record company, so they never came out with anything else, and this album served as little more than a cult classic among select music aficionados. There was a CD re-release in 2020, and more recently a vinyl reissue by Twilight Records in September of 2022. I'd personally heard random uploads to YouTube over the years, but did not own a copy until this recent re-release. We have here a 9-song album, or rather a 9-piece album that includes 8 songs, as one of them, the eponymous Gala, right in the middle of the album, is purely instrumental. I feel that a lot of second-wave goth fans will be a fan of this album because of the sounds it utilizes. It is a bit unclear what genre label this band gave themselves back in the day, but they are said to have been inspired by various British dark post-punk acts, which we now refer to as goth, such as The Cure. They get compared a lot to more dark wave leaning acts such as Mal Deutschland and Clan of Zymox, probably because of the electronic elements. As I mentioned, they had a drum machine, not real drums, as well as a keyboard. However, those were not the dominant instruments in most of the songs, so they weren't really comparable to the more synth-pop new wave bands of the era. The dominant instrument is typically the bass, as is usual for post-punk and goth bands. However, it doesn't have the same repetitive drone of a lot of earlier post-punk bands, using a lot of what I believe is the chorus pedal to give it that water and metal bowl sound typical of second-wave goth bands. I'm sure there's a proper term for that sound, but as a self-taught bassist, I don't know what that is, okay? Something I have long appreciated about goth and post-punk subgenres in general is that the bass often serves as the main instrument while the guitar takes a back seat, and that is definitely the case with most of the songs on this album. The guitar mostly has that twangle, screech sound of mild distortion that is typical of second wave of this genre. The keyboard mostly gives us some atmospheric sounds, sonorisas fabricadas, and sort of on Esfumados Sueños are the only songs where the keyboard is especially dominant or, well, electro-sounding with some of those trademark bleep bloops, but that is not something we hear a lot of on this album overall. Something that makes this band pretty stand out is the use of dual singers. Wanda, with her dark and dramatic intonated mezzo-soprano voice, is the main singer, but Ricardo Barrabera does some pretty even back and forths with her on some of the songs. Once again, those of you second wavers will be pleased to hear that as most post-punk goth male singers go, he goes for more of the emotive touch over the monotonous drone that was common in the first wave. Overall, I think this is a very entertaining album those of you later 80s goth fans will like. I'm hoping the re-release of this album will mean that we hear some of these songs a bit more in the clubs, so for any DJs following me, consider any song off this whole album my special request. So that was Gala. Though that was the only album that Euroshima released back in the 1980s, I know some of you will be pleased to hear that this band has been recently revived. Unfortunately, not all of the old members are still alive today, but Fabian Iribarne and Ricardo Barrabera are still around and have been touring as a duo. They even released a few singles lately, adding on to that previously one-album resume of theirs. Whether you want to listen to Gala or follow this band in its current form, I have all of Euroshima's links down below with their social media accounts and streaming services that feature their work. If you want to follow me on social media, my link tree is in the description as well. Until next time, bye now.